Software as a service, typically for B2B, right? Or is it? I will argue that B2C and SaaS are becoming good friends. And that's thanks to the streamers. Consumers are now SaaS savvy. Hi, I'm Will Rocklin. I'm a Fractional Chief Product Officer, and on today's video called Share of Wallet, we're going to talk about SaaS for B2C. Who's doing it, how much you're charging, and how you can get a piece of that sweet SaaS success. Follow me. So by the nums, consumers on average buy 7 to 8 apps, pay between $3 and about $50 a month per app, and overall spend between $70 and $145 a year. So it may not look like there's a lot of room to get in here, to be that 9th or 10th app, but I see this as something that is growing. B2C SaaS apps are already 13% of all pricing models, and the spend has increased 41% over the last 3 years. And the largest companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, etc. are leading the way, getting customers really familiar with this kind of pricing model. So I think that's a good thing for the rest of us. Why is this an increasingly visible pricing model? Well, one reason is that VCs and the CFOs love it. The reason why is because there's recurring revenue, they get that customer lock-in, they can learn a lot about those customers, and they can use that information to provide upsell. Sweet, sweet upsell. Okay, how much we talking here? How much money? I looked at about 30 companies, and here's our bell curve. 40% are in that $10 to $15 range. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So on the low end, 1Password, Day One, Strava. Day One's a journaling app. These guys solve a specific task, and it's relatively narrow in scope. But don't worry, you can still build a huge business here. 1Password's $3 a month. They were last valued at $6.8 billion. At $10 to $15 range, I told you that was 40% of the companies that I looked at. This is actually where we can learn quite a lot. So one insight, if you have content, like your music, audiobooks, or your language learning models in Duolingo, or design content in Canva, and it's really, really strong, deep content, you can charge $10 to $15 a month. If you are building a content company and you don't have content that's that good yet, or it's not that deep yet, these prices suggest you're probably going to have to be a little less on that price front. Unless you've got something so specific that people are craving for that's not been met by the market, I think you're going to be playing in this zone. Is Canva worth as much as Microsoft 365? They think so, and that kind of might seem strange, but I sense that these are probably two different core customers. And Microsoft, Apple, Google, these guys have a lot more flexibility to charge what they want. We'll see Microsoft doing that in another scenario. And I just think this is not their core. Microsoft 365 is not their core business, so they can play some games. Google Workspace is not their core business, so they can undercut Microsoft in this case. So there's some of that going on here too. The other piece is Evernote worth as much as Notion or Microsoft? And more than Google? Probably not. Evernote's also been facing some challenges lately, so I think there's something instructive there. Even if you get to this $10, $15 plateau and you're doing pretty well, you got to keep your foot on the gas. The wellness guys, they all live here. Calm, Peloton, MyFitnessPal, Headspace. So if you're building a wellness app, I think this is where you're trying to get to. Moving into the $15, $20 zone, one thing that we see is we move into more premium content. So Netflix, HBO, we've left Hulu. Sorry, Hulu. We see marquee shopping in Amazon Prime, right? Marquee AI-powered products, Grammarly, Descript, Perplexity. It's technically in the next part of the bar graph, but it's $20 on the nose. So this is that emerging space, right? We know that AI is expensive to train and run, and they are passing that cost on to consumers. So if you're building a premium AI product, maybe you're going to be here. And the last note I want to make around pricing is LinkedIn Premium. We were talking about Microsoft a moment ago. They own LinkedIn. I just think Microsoft should lower the damn price. If you're out of work, I don't think it's cool to be asked to fork over $29 a month to one of the largest companies in the world. Call me crazy. One thing I think is pretty exciting is that there's all these new entrants into the consumer SaaS playing field as well, which I've represented with a field hockey emoji. For the productivity, we've got all those AI chat products, food and bev, Instacart, Blue Apron, Cometeer, Ecom. We've got not just Amazon Prime, but Amazon Subscribe and Save, Rent the Runway. Tesla has been a pioneer in the auto space with self-driving. And then home, lots of different companies. There's Ring, there's Nest, Nanit, the list goes on. So there's more coming here. I have been saying that this is an increasingly popular pricing model, and here are some of the people, some of the companies that are pushing that forward. So tips for founders. How do you know if you should be a SaaS B2C product? Well, one clue is that these apps are part of users' regular routine, whether it's daily or weekly. I use 1Password multiple times a day, and if you're using Canva, you're possibly tapping into that weekly, but definitely more often than once in a while. The notion here is that you're going to need to consistently deliver value until that next monthly price hits their credit card, right? 2, your enemy is user churn. Churn is a killer for everybody, but especially so if your product is a SaaS subscription, because you're going to make that monthly revenue disappear and the data that goes with it, which means you've got to deliver vital and emotional value pretty soon and often. One of the things that I love about Canva is how consistently it does that. And so if maybe I'm not using it super frequently, but every time I use it, it's a wow. Okay, well now here, take my money. The other thing we want to think about, the other thing I recommend thinking about is creating the notion of lock-in. We see this all over the place. The notion of annual plan. So if it's $20 a month, but it's $200 a year, that's perplexity. If we want to do a family bundle with maybe Spotify or the video streamers, and don't cancel before you do that, we'll lower the price. We see that all over the place. I most recently saw that with IMDb Pro, which is owned by Amazon. One way you can find your pricing goalposts, if you're out there in the wilderness, you have no idea how much your product is worth to users, you would like to charge them $20, but maybe you shouldn't, I can recommend this. The Westendorp Price Sensitivity Meter, not just a clever name. We use this at Square, and while it may not give you the number, it'll give you a range. It'll tell you the playing field that you're in. Especially useful if you're building a new mousetrap. There's no real corollary. There's no other competitor in this market. You think you're inventing a new market. Like let's say you're Cometeer. How much do people want to pay for a subscription coffee that's frozen delivered to their house? We don't really know. So maybe we should try this. But this is a really wonderful method that I recommend. In brief, the way this works is you ask potential customers, your core customers, how much is really cheap for you, how much is really expensive, and maybe what would feel just right. And in there, you kind of get those goalposts. You get the sense of the playing field that you're in. Well, I feel better about subscriptions for consumer products, and I hope you do too. My name is Will Rocklin. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time. Adios.